welcome Mr. Edwin Chee, Chief Operating Officer, and Ms. Hang Nguyen, Director and Head of External Relations. Welcome. Welcome. Yes. Welcome to you both. Super exciting that you're here. Actually, we're going to get straight to have you talking and introduce yourself. So Edwin, just briefly, I know I just mentioned your title, but maybe you could just introduce yourself to this lovely audience.
Sure. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Edwin. I'm a Singaporean. I've been living and working in Vietnam for the past 15 years. So, my 15 years career, I've been working for Industrial Park, VSIP, and 2 years ago, I joined SLP. SLP is a leading industrial and logistic developer, and today we have about 1 million square meters of projects across 6 provinces. Right. In my role as a Chief Operating Officer, I'm involved in the day-to-day operations, the commercial leasing, property management, as well as the project management of the company. Over to Hang.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Hang. I'm Head of External Relations, and I'm also leading ESG and sustainability, which is one of the core features of our property in Vietnam. So I'm very eager to join the discussion today and share our views so that we can contribute to the conversations on how green building practices and green building logistic and industrial facility can contribute to facilitate investment decisions as well as the circular manufacturing trends in Vietnam. And I believe that it's not just about building, but it's also on how we contribute to the broader landscape of green transition in Vietnam and enable the key global supply chain players towards their resilient, efficient operations and longer term for sustainability.
Yeah. Also, just to add on to what Hang has said, in my 15 years here, I think the first 10 years I observed, Vietnam as an emerging economy focus a lot on development, growth, attracting FDI, bringing in new talents. And over the last 5 years, I also see an increasing trend of ESG as sustainability playing a more important role in companies and organizations as they make decisions and investments into Vietnam.
Thank you so much for this introduction and welcome. And just to have the audience follow the flow of our next couple of minutes, we're talking through 3 different sections here. So first, we'll look at setting the scene. The next part, we'll look at how ESG shapes investment decisions. And the third part is looking at designing for circular manufacturing, moving from vision to infrastructure. So we're taking you on this journey. We're going to do it a little bit different. As you saw, there was no QR code when I did the introduction. After each section, we'll open it up for 1 question or 2, depending on timing. So we'll try to make this fireside a really dynamic conversation indeed. So as we are setting the scene, the term green industrial facility is used a lot. But what does it actually mean in practice? How are global investor expectations evolving, and how are those standards being met locally? So Edwin, if we start with yourself, based on your experience at SLP, and you're saying you've been in Vietnam for 15 years, and SLP at how many years?
2 years.
2 years, 2 years. So quite a wide insight of your time here. How has the definition of green industrial facility evolved in Vietnam? And what are your tenants and investors looking for today that they weren't 5 years ago?
Sure. Well, I'll start off by saying this. I think, the term green, ESG, has been talked about many years over, right? It's not something new. And over time, in terms of industrial development, a lot of what we do is brick and mortar, right? So I'll say that in terms of ESG, not a lot has changed. But what has changed is in terms of customer demands and need. What I want to share today, as a leading industrial developer, we serve two key buckets of customer. One on the manufacturing and production end, another on the logistics and warehousing. So I'd like to share first on the logistics and warehousing. We have probably one of the world's largest shipping and logistics customer with us. And towards the end of last year, they took up a lease with us in Haiphong. And in that conversation with them, they shared with me what are the two key reasons they selected to use our facility. One, other than us being one of the more well-known, better-built facility, they really focus a lot on ESG. And from their perspective, it's not just them wanting ESG. They also shared that it's their customers, right? Our customers wanting to bring ESG into their business as a condition for selecting warehousing, right? So that is what we are hearing from our customers. And then on the other front, when it comes to production and manufacturing related customer. So very recently, we have onboarded a customer who produces, their end customer is Walmart, right? So they do produce some of, they are in the injection molding business, right? And they shared with us that, Walmart has actually given them, shared with them that, look, I would expect that by 2030, about 50% of your energy consumed is generated through solar or green, right? And then when they were making a decision to lease from us, one part of their decision process was, is our facility ready to be solar enabled? So obviously, these are some of what we are hearing from the customers, and how it's playing relevant and importance, not just from our perspective, but really what we are doing is serving our customers and the customers' customers.
And that's so interesting because I'm assuming that some of these questions didn't appear a couple of years ago, and now it's really evolving and you're getting more and more.
Yeah, spot on that. A few years ago, I think ESG, sustainability, plays a little part in terms of decision-making process when it comes to selecting either as a factory or as a warehouse. In the last 3 to 5 years, what we are seeing is that a lot more companies are using this as part of the decision-making process. But on the flip side, what I'm also seeing is that everybody wants it, but very few wants to pay for it, right? That is probably on the other end of it, whereby sustainability is part of a lot of this business enterprises, but the premium that comes along with it, because we believe being future ready for our business, and we front load a lot of this development costs into our facility, and that in place increases our production, our costs. Of our building and facilities. And, I think that is one area that we're also trying to identify. How can this be relevant for today's business? But more importantly, we are positioning ourselves to be relevant in this economy and market 5 years, 10 years down the road.
I think that's so important to highlight, is creating resilience, you as a business, but also for the tenants and investors that are collaborating with you. But following that, I'd love to shift over to Ms. Hang, because in order to have that, you actually have to build a very core operational foundation. So from your perspective, an operational and regulatory perspective, what does it actually take to meet those expectations on the ground? And is Vietnam moving quickly enough towards global green standards? A big question.
Yeah, just add on what Edwin has shared. So one of the challenge for the investment into ESG and sustainability is that we have to pay the upfront cost. So usually the cost for adding a green building to international standard like LEED certification can cost 3 to 5% of the construction cost. And at our facility, we apply this kind of international standard, green building standards, that focus more on not just compliance, but on operational efficiency. So the efficiency can come from different perspectives. First is energy efficiency, where we will make all of our properties solar ready. Some of the property will already install solar rooftop that can contribute to the savings of 10 to 50% of the energy for public areas. We also apply the smart heat ventilation aircon system and maximize use of daylight so that we can save the energy for our customers. The other feature is focusing on others like resources like water or waste treatment. For the water, we also focus on how to save water through the smart system that can reduce potable water about 30% or make use of natural rainwaters. And for waste treatment, we also apply like the environmental management system that is aligned to ISO 14001 that we can manage the whole operation of the parks. And more than that is that our site is designed at the hybrid layout that can meet the demand and fit out required from our tenant and customers, whether they want to involve in recycling or circular manufacturing. So I think currently in Vietnam, one of the good news is that Vietnam is committing quite strongly for the green transition. The country is the first country in ASEAN that has adopted the national strategy on green transition, and recently is the National Action Plan for Circular Economy with vision to 2035. So I think it's a very good signal for Vietnam in committing and showing its ambitious to move ahead in this green transition. But I think among these are also the challenges. First, like I mentioned, is the cost. So those who would like to invest in ESG and sustainability, we have to plan ahead and think about the future added value, both to our business and to our partners. And second thing is that in Vietnam, although the policy is there, but it seems that there has been lack of a consistent framework for those who pursue green industrial facility to base on. We can have different types of international green design, like H for the development institution finance, or like LEEDs, the thing that we are applying for global manufacturing companies. Or in Vietnam is Lotus, which is focusing on Vietnam's green building standards, but less popular with international investors. The other challenge, I think, is recognitions and awareness for these green standards, and also room for improvement in terms of capabilities and technical area in Vietnam toward this green commitment. And finally is a framework for incentives such as green loan, green bonds to support and to encourage those who commit on this green journey.
Thank you so much. I think I might take the three words from the previous fireside, which is the compliance, the development, and the collaboration. So you said, yes, of course, there is this drive to comply, but internally we're also striving to develop and to improve, and the importance of the collaboration. So you can't do it alone, and you need help from all sectors or all partners, including the government, to put and educate and raise awareness from building those frameworks, but also educating different people around. So as we wrap up, setting the scene, who has the question in the audience? It's very quiet. Oh, I have a hand. David, I see you.
Good afternoon. A question to both Edwin and Hang. Just want to pick your brain on two perspectives, both from your perspective as a facility, but also from your, let's say, client's perspective. Today, are there any certain ESG certification or requirements that you are seeing becoming non-negotiable when a facility is chosen? So what I would like to understand more is from your perspective. So do you have any certain requirements towards your tenants, but also from the tenants and investors' perspective, if they have certain requirements towards you as a facility? Thank you.
Sorry, just to paraphrase and make sure I understand. Are there any parameters from our investors or customers in ESG standards in determining a location that they choose or a facility that they choose. Is that what
So I think
your question?
what is non-negotiable? So what do you see in terms of whether, as you are developing, what is non-negotiable in terms of what certifications you have? You said some of them. Are the tenants asking for more, or they trust that you have in place? What are things that we have it and we just have to have it, otherwise we won't stand out compared to other competitors?
I'll start first and probably Hang can add on later. I think the word ESG in Vietnam today is very loosely used, right? And it's not very well governed. So there isn't a particular standard. As Hang shared earlier, there are different governing bodies. There's LEED, there are multiple EDGE, right? Some are recognized internationally. Some, for example, like Lotus, are recognized locally. So, for global investors, I'll say that pretty much when they're going to be making investments, they want to ensure that whatever they are putting their dollar in is recognized not just locally, but internationally. But when it comes to more local customers, they probably wouldn't, have whether it's LEED or EDGE or Lotus, as long as you meet a certain green standards, it wouldn't differ from their decision-making process.
Yes, just add on what Edwin has mentioned. I think what we have done is to add value for our tenant and our customer as well, because they're actually not the most important things for all the tenants and those who invest here is first is compliance. So what is required by the local government in terms of sustainability, in terms of environment, then we will help them to comply with that. And what we provide is an add-on. And this is also very important to multinational business partner. For example, like the sharing from IKEA, we listened before, they have a lot of high expectations for their business partner in terms of the sustainability standards. So what we are doing now, up to now, more than 50% of our assets are LEED certified. More recently, we have our park in Bắc Ninh is having LEED Silver certificate. So I think it's kind of an add-on value that we put on our property.
So what I would like before we move to the section is that, following the question, how important it is that you also, even if you're here in Vietnam, you're aware of those international legislations that will impact locally, but at the same time, ensure that you're adhering to those from Vietnam as well. So now we're moving on to Bruno has a question. I can't stop there. I'll give you the question.
Perhaps my voice is not loud enough. Edwin, I need to recommend you on your quotation, and I actually wrote it down. You said something very interesting, and in return I'll give you perhaps also an interesting question. You said that everybody is interested in being sustainable and following ESG practices, but hardly anyone is willing to pay for it. I know that pain. I will also touch upon it during my presentation this afternoon. But I have an interesting question for you. Is SLP willing to pay for it?
Well, it all comes down to dollars and cents, right? Because, like I said, a lot of this development, we front load into our development costs. And our investment, we are here to stay, right? So even though today, from the leases that we are getting, we are not seeing that premium being tagged on to what we have already invested. But like I said, our time frame, our time horizon is long, right? 5, 10 years and beyond. So we believe over time, as ESG plays a more significant part into our customers and their customers' decision-making process, we believe that there will be a certain premium that we paid over time. But obviously at this point in time, basically I call a spade a spade. Everybody wants it, very few wants to pay for it.
Yes, but you can decide to build the most sustainable building that you want. But as a company, you should also decide on selecting the most sustainable suppliers that you can get.
Yep, agree. You see, a lot of this sustainability, it actually costs more for you to retrofit an a non-ESG facility, then if you were to front load a lot of this cost into your initial developments, right? So we have done a cost analysis and study, let's just disregard it, right? Let's just build a 4-wall, list it out over time. When it matters, we build it into our developments. And we have done a study, probably Hang can add on, and we realized retrofitting it at a later stage when it makes more sense is actually going to cost us more. And the impact now is much lesser to us when it comes to the bottom line.
Thank you so much, Bruno, for the question. I see that this is going to be an ongoing back and forth, so I'll reserve a table outside for lunch for the two of you to continue that discussion. Hope that's okay, Bruno.
Of course.
Of course, thank you. So if we move on to the next section, which actually Bruno's taken away the question from me, so, but maybe you can continue in the same spirit. So the next section that we're focusing on is how ESG shapes investment decisions. So it helps hear some of the questions we've already had from the audience. How does it shape these investment decisions? Could you talk from both your sides?
Just want to follow what Bruno has shared with Edwin. So sometimes the premiums that customer is ready to pay is not there, but there are hidden values that sustainable building can bring. I just take an example of the typhoons Yagi that hit Vietnam last year. And our customer in all of our parks in the North stay resilient, their properties are safe, with no loss, no damage. So it's a great value if they go with sustainable and good foundation building partner like us. So it's create a lot of impacts on the future investment decision.
I think that's very interesting. I heard really in the last couple months in Vietnam, those that had the foresight and looked long term, even just on the infrastructure, when the typhoon came in, they were above water, to be put quite bluntly. Would you like to add anything more around how ESG shapes investment decisions from both of you?
Sure. I think from an investor's perspective, there are two prongs that I look at it. Some is just to check the box, right? And another one is they really do have a laundry list of ESG guidelines and principles that is deeply ingrained into their corporate culture, right? So, and we believe over time, organizations would develop a set of more sustainable green practices, adopting ESG more into their businesses and communities. Today, a lot of what we see, the ESG adoption is through very large-scale MNCs, right? For those medium-sized mom and pop, they are probably more worried about, is my business going to be sustainable tomorrow? Is it going to be there tomorrow? Rather than building ESG, into their business processes. So, we believe over time, obviously the large organizations are taking the lead. And once, over time, it becomes a more adopted process, businesses and their suppliers down the chain, it will be a ripple effect. Once large organizations take the front load of doing it and embodying this into their businesses and practices, their supply chain down the line will need to adopt very similar practices.
Thank you so much. Question from the audience on this section, how ESG shapes investment decisions. No questions? Oh, but that was very easy. We can go back to Bruno then. Fantastic. We are getting to our third part of the journey that we're taking you on. And that is very much on the concept of designing for circular manufacturing. And that's from vision to infrastructure. And I might actually go over straight to Ms. Hang. So circular manufacturing is a growing priority. And it also, one has to talk about what kind of infrastructure is actually needed to enable it. And how developers like SLP help tenants shift from linear to circular operations. Ms. Hang, what operational features or partnerships have been most effective in embedding circularity, whether, for example, in waste management, water reuse, or just in general, your collaboration with tenants and government or other stakeholders?
So I think mentioning about circular manufacturing, we focus on three key areas. First is to maximize the efficient usage of natural resources. Second is to maintain the material in the manufacturing cycle as long as possible. And third is make use of natural resources for all this process. So based on these three key pillars, we also promote our facilities that can, first is maximize use of energy, like renewable energy, solar rooftop as one of the key features that we are embarking on. Second is to make use of natural light for operation. Related to waters, it is kind of management and making the water treatments and waste treatment options and solutions for our customer where necessary. Of course, in doing this, we also have to enhance the collaborations and partnership with the IP developers, with the local authorities, so they all play a very important role in this process. And mentioning about the continuous loop of circular supply chain or circular manufacturing, we also think about the concept of reverse logistics, which is very important. And I think in this concept, prime locations play a very important role. If your facility is located in a location which is very convenient and can save the transportation distance, it also saves the energy and reduce carbon emissions. So it's also very important. And the other features that I think we can also support in this circular manufacturing is from the perspective that we have a monthly pool of customers. So this can be a very good enabling foundations for the share material concept that we can help to promote among our customers, because we host different type of customers, from those who are doing logistics, those who are involved in manufacturing, etc. So I think these are important things that we can embark on to facilitate circular manufacturing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ms. Hang. We are opening it up for the last time, I feel like, to the audience. And there is a question there. Ms. Lung? Yes?
Hi, hello. Hi, Christina.
Hi.
Welcome, Lucy. I'm Nguyen from Eco Solution. I've been to deep sea before, and I've been to a number of industrial zones, and we are talking about circular economy, we're talking about the green industrial, but I'm curious about how the waste management managed in kind of like green industrial facility, because I've been working with, before we installed the composting system for Honda Vietnam before, but in those facilities, number of factories dealing a lot with food waste, but that how to work with the different factories inside the industrial zone to utilize the waste management and how to utilize the food waste there to be able to create the closed loop circle for food waste to become compost and used right at the landscaping for the industrial zone. So is that my question?
Bruno, would you like to answer that question?
So in order not to waste more time instead of food waste, Christina, I invite everyone to come to my presentation, because I will dedicate precious minutes how we deal with it. So that's, I think, the best teaser I've ever been able to put forward. But I can also tell you that legally speaking, it's not easy, but it's possible. Because in Vietnam, everything is a problem, but it's a solution for everything. Okay?
And Bruno's presentation is this afternoon. I am also very interested. I've heard snippets of it previously. So actually, this has been a very good dynamic interaction and fireside. And as we wrap up to the final section, I do want to turn to you, Edwin, for a final reflection, and also Ms. Hang. So if you look, and you've talked about being future ready throughout our time together. Yes, there's a cost now, but there's an investment in our future. How do we build something today to ensure resilience down the line? And what's then your vision for Vietnam's industrial development, let's say 2030 or even beyond? And I'm giving you just one action. That's a really hard one because I'm sure there are multiple actions. What's one action we need to take now to make it happen?
Okay, so I'll just start by, in 2021, during the COP26, I think Vietnam made its commitment to going net zero by 2050. Right, so that is what 4 years down the road. If you look at the sustainability tracker, Vietnam progress is just probably average, right? And just last month, when I read a Bloomberg report, it shared with me that for Vietnam to get to its net zero targets by 2050, a total net investment of $2.4 trillion need to be made from now till then. So there is an opportunity for investments to capture, it's a net zero target. So as a developer, if you ask me what's the one thing that we'll focus on, I'll say there's not one single thing, but for ESG, for Vietnam to achieve its ESG goals and target, I'll say that it's not just any government or any organization or any individual. It is a combination of government, companies, and individuals thinking and adopting ESG into their day-to-day life and practices. That will really drive and bring us to where we want to achieve as a country, for Vietnam at least, to achieve its ESG targets.
I saw a timeout signal here, so I just agree with Edwin that only towards stakeholder partnership. Yeah, it's very important toward this journey. And many of us are here today.
And
yeah,
we
so
certainly
thanks for the
are
event
this
today.
room. Yes, absolutely. What I really appreciate from our very short time together is really how you've combined sustainability and business together, and how you're looking at that resilience long term. We really want to say a huge thank you to Edwin and Hang, so give them an extra big applause. And yes, if you want to find them for those additional questions you didn't get a chance to ask, they're here for lunch. You'll find them huddled together with Bruno. And as Bruno has said, he'll be here after lunch as well. Before we get off, we really would like to show our appreciation for also being such a great partner to NordCham. So if I could invite Dale, our executive director, is he here? He is there. And please come up, and again, thank you so much. Can I have it? Thank you. Here. Yeah. Oh, I get one too. So I'm still on my moderator hat, so thank you. Thank you so much. Now I'll hand it back and take on my MC hat now. Please, thank you.